Most people experience the internet as something instant and weightless. A message appears on a screen. A video begins playing. A website loads in seconds. Distance feels irrelevant, almost non-existent. It seems as if information simply appears wherever it is needed, without effort, without delay, without a visible path. This illusion is powerful. It makes the internet feel less like a machine and more like an atmosphere, something that surrounds us rather than something we use. But the internet is not abstract. It is not wireless magic. And it is not floating invisibly above the earth. The internet is one of the most physical systems ever created by humans. It has weight. It has structure. It has geography. And the largest, most important part of it lies far from cities, far from people, and far from light, stretched across the ocean floor. When you send a message to another continent, your data does not jump through space. It begins a very real journey. First, it moves through local networks, routers, switches, cell towers, and underground fiber lines beneath streets and buildings. It passes through data centers filled with servers, humming constantly, processing billions of requests every second. From there, the signal is directed toward the edge of a continent. At that edge, the journey changes direction. The data does not go up. It goes down. It enters a cable that disappears beneath the surface of the ocean and continues its journey through darkness. This is how the world stays connected. For much of the 20th century, satellites were imagined as the future of global communication. The idea was simple and elegant. Signals would be sent into space, bounced off satellites, and returned to Earth anywhere on the planet. Satellites still play an important role today, especially for navigation, weather, and communication in remote regions. But satellites are limited. They orbit thousands of kilometers above the Earth, and every signal must travel that distance twice. Even at the speed of light, this creates noticeable delay. For phone calls, video conferences, online games, financial trading, and real-time collaboration, delay matters. Milliseconds matter. Fiber-optic cables, by contrast, allow light to travel directly through glass, across the surface of the planet, with far less delay and far greater capacity. This is why more than 95% of all international internet traffic travels not through space, but through cables laid along the ocean floor. These undersea cables form the true backbone of the internet. They connect continents the way nerves connect organs. Without them, the modern digital world would slow, fragment, and in many places, collapse. The idea of sending signals across oceans is older than the internet itself. In the mid-19th century, engineers attempted to lay the first transoceanic telegraph cables. These early cables carried simple electrical pulses, dots and dashes representing letters. Messages that once took weeks to travel by ship could suddenly cross oceans in minutes. The first attempts were disastrous. Cables broke during installation. Insulation failed. Signals weakened and disappeared. Entire projects were lost to the sea. But each failure taught engineers something new about pressure, corrosion, insulation, and the unforgiving nature of the deep ocean. Slowly, communication lines began to survive. By the early 20th century, the ocean floor was already crisscrossed with copper cables carrying voice communication. The world was becoming smaller, not because people traveled faster, but because information did. Then fiber optics changed everything. Instead of electricity, data could be transmitted as light. Instead of limited capacity, cables could carry enormous amounts of information. A single fiber could transmit more data than entire countries had exchanged just decades earlier. Modern undersea internet cables are technological achievements hidden in plain sight. At their core are strands of ultra-pure glass, thinner than a human hair. Light enters these fibers and reflects internally, guided forward by precise angles. Each pulse of light represents data, words, images, sounds, decisions. Around these fibers are multiple protective layers. Plastic insulation shields against water. Copper layers provide power to repeaters that amplify the signal along the way. Steel armoring protects against pressure and impact. The entire structure is designed to survive decades underwater. In shallow coastal waters, cables face their greatest danger. Anchors dropped by ships, fishing nets dragged across the seabed, and construction activity can all damage cables. To protect against this, cables are often buried beneath the seabed, sometimes several meters deep. In the deep ocean, conditions are different. Human activity is rare. There are no anchors, no trawlers, no construction. Here, cables are simply laid directly on the ocean floor, resting silently in near-total darkness. They do not move. They do not hum. They simply exist. Once installed, these cables are meant to remain untouched for 25 years or more. Installing them is one of the most precise engineering operations on Earth. Specialized cable-laying ships move slowly across the ocean, guided by detailed maps of the seabed. Engineers must plan routes carefully, avoiding underwater mountains, sharp ridges, deep trenches, volcanic regions, and earthquake zones whenever possible. The cable is released gradually, tension carefully controlled so it neither snaps nor tangles. Every meter is monitored. A single mistake can destroy months of work and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Despite all this care, the ocean remains unpredictable. Earthquakes can shift the seabed without warning. Underwater landslides can break multiple cables at once. Strong currents can expose buried sections. Marine life can interact with cables in unexpected ways. Sharks, drawn to electromagnetic fields, have bitten into cables on several occasions, damaging them. When an undersea cable is damaged, the effects can be immediate and widespread. Internet traffic slows. Connections become unstable. Entire regions can experience outages. In countries with limited redundancy, a single break can isolate millions of people from the global network. Most users never know why their connection suddenly feels slower. Few realize that somewhere, far beneath the waves, a cable has failed. Repairing an undersea cable is slow and expensive. First, engineers must detect the fault and determine its precise location. This can take hours or days. Once located, a repair ship is dispatched, often traveling great distances to reach the site. At the location of the break, robotic equipment lowers grappling tools to the ocean floor. The damaged cable is carefully lifted to the surface. The broken section is cut out and replaced. The connection is tested repeatedly. Only then is the cable lowered back into the sea. This process can take days or even weeks. During that time, global internet traffic is rerouted through other cables. This redundancy is what keeps the internet functioning even when parts of it fail. It is not indestructible, it is adaptable. What makes this system extraordinary is how invisible it is. There are no signs floating on the surface of the ocean. No buoys marking digital highways. Entire continents exchange information through infrastructure that remains completely unseen. The concept of the cloud reinforces this invisibility. It suggests something light and distant. But the cloud is nothing more than physical data centers connected by physical cables. Every photo you upload, every document you store, every message you send lives on a server somewhere, in a building, connected to the world by glass and steel. At certain points along coastlines, undersea cables emerge from the sea at landing stations. These are among the most critical locations in the global internet. Multiple cables converge here, connecting entire continents. Because of their importance, these sites are heavily secured, monitored, and protected. Despite their importance, undersea cables are not indestructible. Their strength lies not in armor, but in redundancy, planning, and cooperation between nations and companies. The internet works not because nothing breaks, but because something always does, and the system is designed to recover. The next time you send a message across the world, imagine its journey. From your device, through local networks, into data centers, across land, then down into the sea. Through pressure, darkness, and silence, across the ocean floor, and back up again, somewhere far away. All of this happens faster than thought. The internet does not float above the earth. It lies beneath it, silent, vulnerable, and essential.